Every once in a while, I get asked what single optimization method I would choose to implement if I could only implement one. And without a moment's hesitation, my answer is, and I imagine always will be so long as it exists, caching. Most of you will have an at least basic understanding of what caching is and why it is important, but let's have a look at it. A web cache sits between one or more web servers and a user and watches requests come by, saving copies of the responses like HTML pages, images, and JavaScript and CSS files. These are collectively known as representations. Then, if there is another request for the same URL, for the same asset or resource, it can use the response that it has instead of asking the server for it again. There are two main reasons that web caches are used, and the first is to reduce latency. Remember, latency is evil, because the request is satisfied from the cache, which is closer to the user instead of the server. It takes less time for it to get the representation and then display it. This makes your website seem really fast, as your server is doing a lot less work to deliver the contents the user has requested. The second reason why web caches are used is to reduce network traffic. Because representations are used and then subsequently reused, it reduces the amount of bandwidth consumed by the user. So let's give this some perspective. Let's say in your left pocket you have a copy of directions to a party, and in your right pocket you have a pen and a piece of paper. Someone walks up to you and asks you for directions to the party. Obviously, it is going to be faster for you to simply give this person the copy you have from your left pocket than to take out the pen and paper from your right pocket and write those directions out. In this analogy, the copy you have of the directions to the party, and you're giving that copy to the person asking for directions, is the same as what caching does for users of your website. It serves them a representation of the requested resource or asset, a snapshot, if you will, of what the requested resource or asset looked like at the time the snapshot was taken. There are several different modes of caching that we will be having a go at once we get to the sections in the course that deal with optimizing your site's origin, specifically the section obviously dealing with caching. Those modes include page caching, or the caching of the entire HTML response, the entire HTML of a web page; browser caching, the instructions we give to a browser as to how and when it is to serve our assets; as well as database and object caching, to further and dramatically reduce the extent to which our database gets queried at all. So, congratulations, you're moving right along and are now done with Section 2. The next section, Section 3, deals with baselines and benchmarks, what those are and why we need them. You'll learn about the importance of scientifically garnering accurate, objective website performance data, and which readily available performance testing tools are best suited to what. It's also where we start picking up a bit more steam here, and where things really start to get exciting, because you, my friend, are well on your way to having one of the fastest websites in the entire world, WordPress powered or otherwise.